say, okay, I have a lot of money, but you have no money unless you take profits.
When the first ever spot ETF was created for gold 10x.
And the only thing I really knew was Bitcoin at the time, so I just invested very heavily into that. Rode it all the way up.
What's up?
My name is Jeff. Even the creators have said it's going to be the predecessor of CBDC.
What that taught me was that I need to be self-sufficient.
A solid DCA investment strategy, and pretend the red sell button doesn't even exist.
We about to go up like.
Good evening, ladies, gentlemen, and degens of all ages. We're back again with our 5th installment of Book Club. We actually had a little bit of a half episode that Will actually took us on a trip this last week. We had Steven, the author of Securing Wallets, on. That was a fantastic one. We're considering doing that one for Book Club, so let us know below if you want to see us do a bit of more of a deep dive on that and even go through some of the exercise on it. Additionally, we are looking for the next book we're going to be covering. But tonight, we are talking about How to Avoid Trouble with the IRS, 10 Best Tax Tips by none other than Kristine Stevenson, who is slightly related to one of the members on the panel. Who might that be?
Oh, is this my cue?
This would be
Hey
your
everybody,
cue.
how's it going? This is my mother that we're researching here. So nothing but good words, or else you'll, I don't know, or else
Might have some
or
words
else
for you
something.
when you get home then.
Yeah, what's
So-
up though? I'm just cruising around Texas and actually headed down to the mother's place right now. So I will let her know that we did the podcast when I get there, and she'd be like, "Oh, good job," and then we'll be
Fantastic.
all up to date on our homework.
Perfect. Yeah, as a quick reminder, she is actually going to be coming on as a guest for next Wednesday's episode on the 27th, right after Christmas. So we are excited to have her on, and this book club is supposed to be a little bit of an intro into the work that she's done and her specialty. Will, by the way, what is your mother's specialty? What's her background?
So my mom is an enrolled agent with the IRS, and so what that means is she essentially has gone through all of the qualifications necessary to be a tax preparation assistant, specialist, whatever. She helps people get their taxes squared away, generally focused on small business owners and folks of that nature. She helps individuals fix problems, essentially. So she's like a consultant. She runs her own little business thing. She used to work directly for the IRS for, I want to say, like 5 to 10 years, something like that. And then she also did a bunch of work with TurboTax for a while. I would say like either 5 or 10 years, somewhere in that range. Sorry, Mom, if I get the numbers wrong, but it was something like that. And yeah, so she does consulting work and and things of that nature, and assists people. So that's what she does.
Perfect. And as always, we have the rest of Book Club gang. We got Nate, the Ascending Man, McGettit. How you doing, brother?
Hey, I'm doing all right. You know, just got home today, had a little bit of an early day off, and now I'm on vacation. So my first vacation in I believe about 2 years now. So yeah, it's going to be from here all the way out to the 2nd. Let's go.
Sounds good. Well, you might be on vacation, but you did just get a request for some more work from Willie. He asked, can you please teach him how to read, Nate?
Willie, I don't know how to read.
I think all of us on here listen to audiobooks, so I don't know if we're even the correct reading gang to be teaching people.
If I see 100 messages in the Telegram chat, I'm like, oh great, this is going to take me a couple of days now.
Phonics with the degens, we can teach people. All right, and then lastly, we have our last but not forgotten member of the book club. She's often not very seen, but we love having her on here. Mrs. McGettit, how you doing?
Hello. So I got over being sick finally, and then as soon as I got over being sick, I got a new sickness. So no coughing this time, fortunately, for the most part, but my voice is still gone, so I'm sorry.
You're good. Thank you again for joining us and also doing all of the production stuff. We really appreciate you, and I feel you as well. I think the last time I streamed was about 2 weeks ago with Boogie, and then after that, I got strep throat and was effectively dead for 3 days. Like, I actually slept for like 72 hours. So that's where I've been. Glad to be back and glad to talk about some riveting stuff like taxes.
Oh yeah, so exciting.
Perfect. All right. Before we get into it and I go on my spiel about the breakdown of the book, any final words from the panel? Any favorite parts you want to point out beforehand?
I like the.
You go ahead, Will.
We'll go Will.
I was
then
gonna
Nate.
say, I like the part where she's my mom, and in the beginning of the book, she shouts out like basically all of the stuff that all of her children do for work. So like she talks about how my brother does construction, how my sister does like TV production, how I do ironworking and stuff. But she just like she says like, oh, if you're a small business owner, like let's say you build TV towers, or let's say that you work on building houses, or let's say you produce movies, or let's say you do graphic design, right? So she basically just listed off the thing that her children do. So that was pretty. It was a nice little Easter egg for me. So I enjoyed that bit.
Fantastic. Nate, what you got?
So I actually got a question. Will, is it like the way that, because I was listening to the audiobook and she did her own audio on the audiobook.
Yes.
And she seems a little bit like kind of like preppy and almost happy-ish, you know, like in a professional manner. Is she really like that?
Yeah, she is very enthusiastic about her work. And so she's also got a background in acting. So she knows how to be enthusiastic, and she is also very enthusiastic about the work that she does and like making the world a better place, and mostly just helping people figure out problems where they feel like really trapped by this big giant bear, which is the government, which is the IRS, you know. So she gets a lot of satisfaction from like educating people on like how they can fix their issues and not have to worry about it. So she brings a lot of like peace of mind to people, and that brings her a lot of satisfaction and stuff in life. So she's a very energetic and fun person.
I gotcha. Yeah, because I was definitely getting that vibe a couple times, especially like when you're like, oh, and then you take out a profit, yay! She does things like that. Yay for capitalism. I'm like, oh god.
Yes, she is like that. It's quite fun.
She's a good narrator. I enjoyed it. It's a good read. It's not too hard to listen to, even though it's talking about taxes. So I'd say she does a very good job with the voice acting and the direction. So I appreciate it on that front. All right, Mrs. McGettit, any final words before we get to the summary?
Not too much. I enjoyed listening to it as well. On the Amazon reviews, that's one thing that people kept talking about is like, hey, it's not insanely boring. I can actually focus on this. So
definitely. Also, one of the nice things about the book is you might notice it's not super thick, and the audiobook is the same way. I want to say it was like a little over 2 hours on base speed.
Yep.
That's about right. So it's very digestible. There's a bunch of good nuggets of information in here. This is not going to be your IRS code, define everything, tell you every trick or every bit of like legal definition. I've been doing a little bit of research into that for a capital gains tax video I've been doing, and my God, is IRS code painful. So hats off to your mom, Will. She dealt with this for over a decade, it sounds like, so she must be a champ.
Yeah, she learned all this stuff, so that way you don't have to.
You don't have to, but I will say this. I think if you do understand how things work, you're going to have a foot up on your competition, so to speak.
Oh, for sure.
All right, with that said, we're going to get into it. I have my book, I have my notes, and I have the last LaCroix that was in my fridge. It is unfortunately flavorless, so that's what we're doing today. All right, let's get into it. What do you got, Will?
Wait, they make flavorless LaCroix?
I got a bubbly. Mine's key lime, though, so haha.
Will, you said that.
I like key lime. Key lime is the best. But yes, this is the pure. I usually just use these to mix with whiskey every once in a while. And I was like,
yeah, I was gonna say, isn't that literally just soda water? That does not sound pleasant.
I learned, unfortunately, that tonic water and soda water are not the same thing. So the heads up on that one.
Man, talk about first world country problems.
Yeah. Whiskey soda, perfect. Whiskey and tonic, awful. Don't do it.
What since we've broached the subject, can you enlighten us real quick on this book club on how to mix drinks? I am curious, but it's funny.
All right, that's fine. I'll give you the quick Uncle Z special. I like a good whiskey highball. Basically, what it is you do a double shot of whiskey on the rocks, and then you add some club soda to it, depending on your liking. Pretty much just like I don't know, finger or two of club soda, lightens it up, gives you a little bit of fizziness too. Tastes good. Do it with a whiskey that you want to sip. Not a shooting whiskey, but a sipping whiskey, because otherwise you will just be sipping on, I don't know, like Jack Daniels. That is like the worst. That's like some of the worst tasting whiskey I can imagine. So that's just my personal preference.
I don't know. Hennessy is pretty bad. I'm not gonna lie.
Hennessy is pretty bad too.
Well, the thing I wanted to know is what's the difference between tonic water and soda water, but that is also interesting information.
Oh, the difference between tonic water and soda water is that tonic water kind of has like a little bit of a lemony flavor to it. It works better with something like gin, so like a gin and tonic, whereas you have that bitterness that works with the juniper berry flavor of gin. So that's why those two work well together. But then, like soda water is very flavorless, but it more of just adds like a little bit of, you can dilute whiskey if you don't like the super strong booze taste, and it adds a little bit of like lightness with the bubbles. So that's where you get it pretty much. So
tonic water has lemony.
It's more of lemon flavored, yeah. It's like a bitter, a sour aftertaste to it.
Gotcha. That is interesting.
All right. This has been The Bar Cart with Uncle Z. Time for books. All right, so the book, like we talked about earlier, easy read, very digestible. It's called, the subtitle is 10 Best Tax Tips. So I'm going to run through the chapters real quick. They flow very easily into each other. So first off, you got to ask yourself, how do I know I'm self-employed? This book really is for all the hustlers, the gig workers, and the business owners out there. This book talks about the difference between being an employee versus being someone that's going to be paying taxes as a business owner, or somebody like an Uber driver, or you just like walk dogs on the weekends or something like that. It's the other way of capturing income that's not through your traditional W-2 forms. So if you're not getting a W-2, you're instead going to be writing a W-2 for other people, this book is for you specifically. So then after that, it talks about you can get a employee identification number on all your tax documents. Unless you want to put your social security number, you got to go get one of these. This allows you to have a little bit of anonymity, and it's just a security thing. Chapter 3, we got business bank accounts. One of the big things she talks about is it's one of those little nuggets of information. It's like, do not mix your money. You got to keep it separate, A, for good accounting, but also so you don't taint anything. Next up, we got... yeah, you don't josh your money up. Next up, we got business budgeting. This is basically the idea that you should be planning in advance for your taxes and saving a little bit of your revenue to help pay for it. So that way, when it is time to pay your taxes, you actually have funds set aside for it. You're not scrambling for change on the couch. Next up, we got business income. Again, just how to track and record your income. And then we have the other half of the equation, which is something we're going to be talking about later, which is business expenses. How to track and record your business expenses. What are they? How do they work? And then we're also going to be talking about why these are some of the most important things you can be tracking as part of your business. After that, we got estimated self-employment tax. This is basically your opportunity to tell Uncle Sam, like, I think I'm going to make this much money, so I'm going to pay a little bit in advance. And this is how you can get on a quarterly pay schedule instead of doing the annual. So that way you can pay a little bit as you go instead of just one massive chunk at the end of the year. Should help you out a little bit. Lastly, the business tax return, understanding all the documents going into it. And this flows into the next two chapters, which is hiring a professional to help you prepare your taxes and file your taxes. Just because you sent your taxes off does not mean that they have been accepted or that they've even been received, honestly, especially if you're filing paper. If you're doing an e-file electronically online, then you can get receipt of your tax return getting accepted a lot easier. But other than that, make sure you actually get receipt, because in some places, your state tax return will not be accepted until your federal is accepted. So that means that if your federal gets kicked back, guess what? So does your state. All right. Whew, that is what we got for the 10 best tax tips. We're going to go into one of the first things one of the first things in the book, which is what is the difference between being an employee versus being self-employed. One of the things that they talk about is that there are unfortunately automatic deductions that I'm sure all of us are all too familiar with when it comes to money getting taken out of our paychecks. Two of the things that you're going to see on your paycheck deductions is Social Security tax and Medicare tax. Social Security is going to account for 12.4%, and Medicare is going to be 2.9%. So, collectively, that is 15.3%. If you are an employee, you'll notice that half of this is taken out of your expenses or your income, and then the other half is actually paid by your employer. But the big question is, what if you are the employer? Now that means you have to pay both of these for yourself, which basically means that your tax burden effectively just doubled in that sense. Lastly, there is another way that the IRS tracks all of your transactions, and that is through what's called a 1099 miscellaneous form. That is basically the idea that whenever you transact with somebody and you either pay them or they pay you $600 or more, you should be giving these people one of these forms to complete at the end of the year. So whenever someone tells you, like, yeah, we're going to do this under the table or off the record, is it possible to get away with it? Yeah. Is it ill-advised? Also, yes. You don't want to get in trouble with the IRS, and that's one of the big lessons that kind of comes through with this book, because as Ms. Stevenson talks about, there are a lot of ways that the IRS can kind of hit you below the belt, so to speak. All right.
You're trying to tell me that a book titled How to Avoid Trouble with the IRS focuses on avoiding trouble with the IRS, Zenith? I find that crazy.
It sure does, but it also explicitly tells you how your life can be made miserable and in what ways.
How dare people talk about the things they say they're going to talk about? What is this world?
I appreciate this the most, because sometimes you will go into streams or books or videos and people put a title, but that is not what they're talking about. Thankfully, this is not one of those books. Will's mom is not here to mislead you. She's not here to clickbait you. She's going to give you exactly what you came for. So yep. I do appreciate that.
Congruence.
All right. Question for my panel. Our first topic, we're talking about the difference between being an employee versus self-employed. What are some of the differences that you've seen personally, or you think that could be hiccups for people as they move into this gig work, hustle, business owning side of life?
Well, the difference between being an employee and then sole proprietor. Oh my gosh, I can't speak English. But doing it yourself is, quite frankly, where does the buck stop? If it stops with you, then yes,
absolutely.
You're solo, man. Versus, there's a lot of other managers that needs to go through, like an HR system and all that. Yeah, okay, then it's then it's gonna, you're just gonna play it. I don't know. I just keep coming back around to like crypto now. I personally haven't really experienced anything outside of like just being an employee, right? But on the other side of things, there is I know that Mrs. McGettit, she does a lot of stuff with a lot of people who have a secondary marketplace with the Pokemon community. So I don't know, babe, do you want to talk about that a little bit?
Honestly, there's not too much to talk about. Most people started off in a kind of, I guess I would say, a loose fashion, more of a mom and pop shop type of idea. When they first get into it, most people don't set up an LLC. They don't start right away with like jumping into a business. They just come in with, their collectibles, the things that they have extras of that they're looking to get rid of, and they just kind of put them up there. And then whatever happens. But in recent years, I can't remember exactly when, Will's mom talks about the $600 rule, and the $600 rule was actually state specific until just recently. And it's always kind of like been a something that not a lot of people really pay attention to. Typically, the IRS does not really notice you unless you're making a good amount of money. So the $600 rule being spread to more states kind of freaked people out for a little bit. So a lot of these people who were kind of doing things, I wouldn't say under the table, but they weren't thinking about it in a sense that they need to like report things. They just didn't really come up because it wasn't a big deal. They were just getting rid of some of their extra stuff. When that rule hit, they all kind of panicked. So for a little bit there, it was kind of wild. And that's why I think something like this is so valuable. It really kind of drives home the idea that if you're not aware and you're not prepared, because I think the IRS can go back as far as, is it 3 years or 5 years? Does anybody know?
I wouldn't be surprised if it was even longer than that.
I think technically they can go back to like the beginning of your life if they really decide they hate you. Like you'd have to piss them off though. Like you'd have to do something really weird to get it that bad. But but I think the standard is like 3. They can go back as far as 3 years and ask you to prove everything you've been reporting on your taxes. And if that happens and you don't have that information, you're screwed. So
Sounds about right. I'll say this. I think one of the main points that kind of comes through in this section of the book is it's exposing people to the idea that as your own boss now, you are responsible for all your things. It is that complete and total ownership. Whereas there's no HR department that's you can fall back on. There's no accounting department that's going to help you do the math. You are kind of in charge of everything, and you got to be ready for that. Because a lot of the stuff and the shortfalls that the examples that I saw in the book is exactly like people not realizing that everything has to be accounted for. It's thinking that you get caught. It's not thinking, but it is that you kind of get caught because you weren't thinking about other little things. Like you weren't thinking about that like $600 expense that you had to pay to the caterer or something for an event. You weren't thinking about like how your tax burden has effectively doubled between going from like 7.65% going towards Uncle Sam's Social Security and Medicare to doubling to about 15.5%. So you got to be ready and you got to understand the numbers, and it's having that holistic view. I'd argue that this concept is not really that far out there for us, and partly the reason why talking about this section of the book for us seems a little self-evident, or anybody in the crypto community, especially people that are the not your keys, not your coins kind of part of the world, which is that once you start taking actual ownership of cryptocurrencies and stuff, you are actually like maintaining all the security, all of the accounting, all of the tax burden, and all the gains associated with all that stuff. So something like this, it makes sense. But at the same time, you kind of got to know what to look out for. And if you don't know what you're looking for, that's how you get got by these things. What do you guys think?
It's kind of funny. I was when I first started speaking, I was going to go that direction, but I was like, I don't quite think we're going that way. But since you brought it up,
on the same page, brother.
Yeah, since you brought it up, I'll dive into it. It's like,
do it. Let's hear it.
Think about it this way, right? So usually what you do is you have a what do you call that? A 1099, right? Form whatever it's called. The number
1099 miscellaneous.
One of the ones with numbers in front of it, or letters and then numbers. But one for your employees, right? Send them off, and then you simply fill out a couple of boxes here or there. And, you look up how much you made and then write that down. Bam, there you go. Whereas in crypto, you have like a stack, a huge stack of transactions that all equal and then negative and then plus and then negative and plus and negative, all into, okay, what was your final at the end here? And you need proof of all these transactions. And it really is something else, especially since in the crypto world, right? This isn't just electronically put into the banking system that just automatically goes into a form. Every single transaction you make needs to be recorded as a taxable event. And so now we're running into issues with just like spending days trying to figure out what are my tax burdens on the crypto that I've been doing. And as Willie said down there, thousands of transactions. Thank God for Coinly. There's a couple of programs out there because this is very clearly doing taxes a very difficult thing without the importance of some kind of software to be able to help out, because there's a lot of transactions there. But just I can't get over what that must look like though for the tax people in the IRS when you get that stack to them and they're just like, oh, okay. So it looks like he traded some coom rocket for Gary Guzzler, and then Gary Guzzler into Semen Demon. It's like, I mean, oh god,
I don't think we've ever. I don't know if the names of the coins actually get reported on it, but last year when I filed my taxes, I remember looking at I used an automated web service which tracked all my wallets and all my transactions and helped me prepare my taxes. But I looked at the form that it spit out, and it was just like 5 pages of just like a table that was just like tons and tons of like strings of like wallets, addresses, contract addresses, very, very like minute numbers with like 10 decimal places. And I was like, God bless whoever is actually reviewing all this stuff at the IRS, especially if it's manual Like,
Yo, and you got to think
this-
about like traders too, like traders who are doing like as Willie said, thousands and thousands of these transactions. Oh my lord!
Oh yeah, they probably burn through IRS folks, the bean counters, so to speak, pretty quickly. All right, Will, I want to get your take on this. Do you think that trying to train people for this like total ownership mentality is more of a new concept as we're in today's day and age? Like, do you think more people are stuck in that W-2 mentality, and when they try to switch over to something like this, they do get caught by not preparing for all the differences?
Can you say that again? Because it sounded like they being like the IRS, or are you just talking about like society in general? Can you
They, as
repeat
in
the question?
an individual who starts trying to earn money through their own means, such as like, I don't know, driving for Uber or starting a business. Like, have we properly trained people with the mentality of like taking full ownership on things to understand that, like, yeah, this is fully in your wheelhouse now. There is no fallback. You are the fallback.
There is no real I think you're being colloquial in the usage of we, meaning like, you know, does society properly prepare people to take care of themselves? And is that your question, sort of, kind of, at the core?
Yeah, I'm just trying to give you a springboard to share some thoughts.
I think that like not enough people know how to take care of themselves, and so they hide in the comfort of their W-2s. You know, like it perhaps it might just be like, oh, it's all I know, it's all I do, it's all I've ever like branch out into, and people don't expand past that. And so, like, you know, guys don't go out and do contract work and receive 1099s, or don't learn how to file their like 8049s, 8949s, whatever those forms are that you're talking about. Like, you get the CRV download that shows every single transaction you've made, all your P&L statements, all that stuff. Like, it's definitely a lot easier to just say, oh, well, I guess I'll just be an employee and do it this way because this stuff is crazy complicated. I think that's a large swath of Western culture is just kind of like the general the general laziness and not trying to learn new things to ascend in life and you know, take sovereignty of your own situation and really grab life by the balls and squeeze. I don't think there's a whole lot of that in our culture. So now, like, when you take a look at crypto guys, especially crypto guys that want to learn how to do their taxes correctly so they don't get fucked by good old Uncle Sam, right? Like, when you take a look at us folks, like, where was I going with this? I suppose just we're on the right track trying to figure this shit out before it becomes a problem. And you end up like one of my mom's clients who is like getting audited 3 years down the road. And now you not only owe the IRS like the money that you owe them, but now you owe them principal and interest, or you owe them principal in addition to interest now, because
and penalties. Penalties are a thing as well.
Yep. Fucking penalties, interest, and principal. There's a bunch of fucking cocksuckers over there at the IRS, man. I'm not terribly fond of them.
And what you're talking about ultimately is literally just self-custody. Like, yeah, we talk about self-custody of coins, right? Well, that's neat and everything. Okay, that's step one. But then we have self-custody of your own financial education, quite frankly. Because now you need to learn about, hey, how do I pay Uncle Sam? You know, he's coming after me, and it's only me, and there's nobody else here. So,
yep, the mob boss is after you.
Oh, boy.
Precisely. So the reason that I wrote this down as the first topic to get into, not just because it's the start of the book, but because this is the intro to the mentality. Something like we talked about, Steven, on Wednesday, or you guys talked to him about, I was chatting in the comments between passing out. But one of the core concept of the Securing Wallets book is the idea that to actually properly do cybersecurity, you have to have a mindset for it. And it's not something that's common. Typically, people are just going to think of like trying to do like very basic best practices for like how to remain secure, not how to get like keylogged or something, but they don't actually understand the threats that are coming after them when it comes to cybersecurity. And you have to actually train yourself to think about it. It's not just like throwing spaghetti at the wall and hoping that it sticks as your security plan. It's saying, these are vulnerabilities. I have to cover up these specific vulnerabilities. I have to understand how I'm going to get got so I can prevent it. that's kind of the same way with this book, which is, I think it's the importance of having chapters early on like these is to say like, hey, we're super glad that you are earning your own money. You're starting your own business. Fantastic. Capitalism is a wonderful thing, and we do fully believe in it here. At the same time, though, be ready. You have to understand how to protect yourself because you're in charge of it now. So that was the main point I wanted to get to with that. And with that being said, once you actually understand what you're doing, that's when we can move into my second topic here, which is building a plan, which is cool. Now that you understand what's going on, now that you understand what you have to do, how do you plan for it? This is where the authors start talking about it's a good idea to theoretically use your tax estimates quarterly so that you're doing 4 smaller payments to the government instead of 1 large lump sum. And then additionally, the idea is that you need to find some sort of number that is you're going to save this percentage of your revenue, not just profit, but revenue coming in to help cover taxes. The magic number here, again, is 10%, which ironically enough lines up exactly with our richest man in Babylon idea, which is save 10% for yourself and then, I don't know, maybe save another 10% for the government. So it works out there. And then lastly is something that we talked about that Nate mentioned, which is the idea of utilizing professionals. Doing this stuff yourself is hard. It is very technical, especially if you are into the crypto aspect like we are. You have to actually track all of your transactions and provide all of the correct data for it. And sometimes even with like new chains or new coins that get released inside of a certain year, even if you're using automated software, it might not be properly tuned for it or ready to accept something like that. So you got to be able to understand what you're doing and go in there. Will, do you have, what do you think about utilizing professional services for something like this?
I use a combination of portfolio trackers to kind of sort of know where I'm at. But as far as like tax preparation software, the one that shout out to Willie, who I can't see the chat right now because I'm driving, but you guys were mentioning earlier, I think he mentioned Coinly. That's the one that I like to use as well as Coinly. And they do have a mechanism for you to add the pulse chain network onto their services. So that way you can get pulse chain transactions and all that stuff taken care of too. So you're not like left dead in the water if you're a Richard Hart ecosystem enthusiast. There's also on Hex Scout, they have a system in place that will print out an Excel sheet that will show you for your hex stakes how to keep track of profit, like whether you're in profit or whether you're in loss from your hex stakes, and like what time you entered the stake, what the price of the coin was, and how much yield you earned at the end of it, and what the price was, and all that stuff. So Hex Scout and Coinly are the mechanisms that I like to use for my tax preparation, and we are coming up on that time of year again. I used Coinly last year, and I think I'm gonna use Coinly again this year. They did great by me, and their price is great. I think it was like $90 for a damn good service. So, fantastic. And they're a good portfolio tracker.
Yeah, it's true. That's something that's honestly a good portfolio tracker is hard to come by. I do want to throw it over to our small business owner, Nate. Have you utilized professional services for taxes in the past for your business? What was that like?
Well, I don't own a small business. I decided to jump into crypto before actually starting my own pest control business. It's kind of it is one of those things I had to look at though, and quite frankly, one of the things that your mother Will was talking about is like, oh yeah, I could just do it myself. Well, I mean, yeah, technically you could do anything yourself, right?
Yep.
But why is it that somebody pays my company to get me out there to go do their pest control? Because they don't want to have to deal with it, you know?
Yep.
Get a professional who really knows his stuff out there to go do it. And I feel the same way when it comes to taxes. I really, really, really don't want to sit down, look at all these numbers, have to know what the numbers mean, and then start putting stuff in. I really don't want to do that. That to me is a huge waste of my time, and it's just grinds at me. So I would be very willing to pay somebody or some software to do it for me, basically. I could just simply put in a few small things, right? And then you take care of the rest. You take care of the rest. I would only ever pay for it, quite frankly.
Yeah, you're entirely right. I think one of the points that is brought up in the book is something along what you said, which is the idea that, yes, you can do things yourself, but those are called hobbies. If you are trying to run a business, you're not doing this as a hobby. Theoretically, you're trying to make a profit. Therefore, you can almost think about utilizing a professional service as a more efficient use of your time, and that time could be spent making money. Therefore, in essence, it's a more efficient use of money or expenditure of money, which is that you are going to theoretically pay less to get a better product done faster and get a second opinion on it, to look at it, to miss anything that you might have missed yourself. You're paying not only for just like the service itself, but you're also paying to effectively double check your own math. There's a lot of benefits to hiring professionals, not just in this arena when it comes to taxes, but in a lot of other stuff, which is like, I know personally, I do get hung up on the idea of I can just do it myself, or it's the famous line that mechanics hear, which is I can do this myself, or I have a buddy that can do it for cheaper. And it's like, that's dangerous, because these are professionals that are ready and equipped to handle the issue that you're trying to give to them. And they are more than happy to pay to charge you a fair price for it and give you a good product.
I got something to add on to that, Zenith. And even though like this is something for everyone to consider, audience at home, you know, us on the panel, just like when you're hiring said mechanic or you're hiring this dude to prepare your taxes, like at the end of the day, you're the one that has to deal with the results of whatever the product is that they produce, right? Just because you have them prepare your taxes for you does not mean that they pay if they mess it up or something. It's like ultimately you as the taxpayer, it's your responsibility to ensure that good work is done. Just like, you know, if you go get some work done on your car, it's your responsibility to make sure that you pick a good mechanic and that you don't get screwed in the process and yada yada. There's lots of good like tax preps and mechanics out there that if they do make a mistake that they'll fix it for you. But like ultimately the IRS is not going to come after the tax preppers. And like when your car breaks down on the side of the road, like nobody's gonna be like, oh, it's the mechanic's fault or whatever. It's like, nah, dude, like you're the one that has to deal with all of these things at the end of the day. So just keep that in mind, is that you're the one who has the authority, you're the one who has the responsibility, you're the one who has the accountability for all these decisions that you make. So
that's a great point.
My little 2 cents.
Yeah, at the end of the day, like you might be paying for the service, but it's still you that's receiving it and still the man at the end. So that's fair. All right. Any other thoughts?
You have them pay, right? You pay for the service, they get the taxes done. Then it's like your time to review it, right? Well, here's what you do. You sit down with that tax expert and you have them run it through it all to you. So that way, not only are you checking things kind of like almost passively, I would say, but they are double checking with you sitting right there, the client, their own work.
Yep.
Definitely. Also, something like that is also an excellent opportunity for you to actually start to learn a little bit about what's going on behind the scenes with the tax stuff, which is that anybody can read black and white IRS code. It's very easy to read it top to bottom. I'm not going to say you're going to not hate yourself at the end of it, but it is possible. But then to actually look at that and understand what it's saying and understand what it's also not explicitly saying, that's the key. That's where you get these professional services with the experience and the knowledge to understand how to effectively apply strategies to tax code. You can absolutely get stuff like that when you sit down with the tax professional that you hired and they run you through the numbers and they explain to you like, okay, look, here's all of your expenses, here's all your income and stuff. You have these specific things that we can actually reduce or write off as part of your expenditures to help reduce your tax burden. And this is the sort of stuff that you can learn when you actually get a professional, because it's not just them doing a job for you, but if you actually take the time to sit down with them, or I mean, also if they're willing to, theoretically, it's a learning opportunity.
Hell yeah.
Definitely. All right, we are still on the topic here of building a plan. Is there anything else that you guys could think about when it comes to building a plan for either running your own taxes, running a small business? We've talked about saving a small bit, paying as you go quarterly, and then also utilizing professional services. Any other ideas you can think about?
One thing that I did, Nate and I did have a small business a couple of years back. It was quite a while ago now, though. Really quit
to Columbia.
Dork. And when we did that, one thing that I did that I thought was like super important was I set up.
Oh snap!
We're good.
Hi there, Will.
Sorry. Go ahead.
It's okay. I set up a bank account for business specifically, and then attached, the card to it, attached a credit card to that, and set up PayPal that was under the business, and then just anything that we bought or sold went through all of that, like either the bank account directly or the PayPal directly. That business didn't last very long, but for the very few transactions we did do, that was one thing that I tried to have like in sync so that there wasn't like stuff all over the place. And we could have a very easy like electronic footprint to kind of just follow around.
Yeah, I think that's
Yeah, and the
a
other
great
smart
point.
thing about that too is you get the safety of the credit card, right? So it's kind of like an extra little thing, just in case, like if you don't have the money actually in the bank, you're going to run into some real serious problems, right? But if you're using credit, you've always got a little bit extra. So let's say you run over and you're like, nuts, we don't have enough in the bank. You can pay out what's in the bank to that credit card, and then you can try and pay it off somehow, some way at a later date for the rest of it. So it can help you be a little bit of a safety net.
For sure. That makes complete sense to me. And also the other idea with this whole thing is you're creating like slightly automated systems, and you're also streamlining everything where it's keeping everything together and it's keeping it clear and concise. I think that's something that we've talked about it on this, which is that it's very easy to get lost in the weeds on this stuff. So setting yourself up for success can also look like making sure that you are giving yourself clear and easy data to track and follow, and also clear venues for money to flow so you don't lose anything in the process. Yep, Willie B. Long is right here with a comment as well. Mrs. on the ball here. No commingling is the key. Absolutely. And Miss Kristine Stevenson would also agree with you on that one.
Oh, snap. Is she in the chats?
No, I'm talking about the book. That is something in the book.
Oh, okay.
It would be cool if she got in here, but I don't know if this is quite her Friday night experience.
They're having I thought they were having dinner right now, so I had sent her the link and tagged her on social medias and stuff. But that would be interesting if she had hopped in on the chats. That'd be funny.
We'd love to have her if she does show up. Please leave a comment. We'll be happy to shout you out. All right, we are on to my final planned topic for the live stream, which is the power of business expenses, aka write-offs. So this is the idea, which is that when you file your taxes as a business owner, one of the beautiful things is that you change the order of operations for how you pay taxes. If you're a normal employee, what you do is you get your W-2, they take money out, then give you your money, then you go spend your money, and then you also unfortunately pay taxes on that. So it goes income, taxation, spending, versus if you are a business, what you do is you run your profit against your expenses, or excuse me, your revenue versus your expenses, and that generates your number for profit. And that is the amount that you're taxed on. This is one of the concepts that Robert Kiyosaki talks about in Rich Dad Poor Dad, which is that once you start operating as a business owner, you have the ability to do all your spending first, then take your income, and then pay taxes on the difference. So this is where the idea of expenses and write-offs comes into play, which is the idea of what is a business expense versus what is kind of something that you can't really write off. There are ways to do it and there are ways not to do it. One of the key points that the author of the book talks about is that there are absolutely expenses. One of the famous ones she talks about is the home office expense, which is the idea that you could theoretically write off the cost of your home office, including like furniture, computer, maybe even a little bit of the rent. But there are very key things that have to happen with it. Notably, this is a good quote, this is government lingo right here, is that in order for it to be written off, the use of that space must be regular and exclusive, meaning it's got to be a dedicated room specifically for business. It cannot just be the TV room that you also incidentally do business in every once in a while, or use your laptop. You got to have something dedicated, and it's going to be used only for the business. This is one of the examples of an expense that is cited in the full list of examples, otherwise known as the Schedule C. You can find it on the IRS website. It'll give you it'll give you a link to a bunch of the other publications surrounding it. This is unfortunately one of those IRS topics that has like 8 subsections to it, so you got to find the one that's kind of relevant to you. And again, this might be where a professional could come in handy. All right.
You know what's so funny about that? When she was going through that, the entire time I'm sitting there thinking, like, Okay, so what if you have a big computer or TV screen on there that's used for like meetings, and then on the weekends you just sit there and watch videos? Like, IRS ain't gonna know that. This is my dedicated space. This is my leisurely time, so that way I can do my business better.
I mean, you're not wrong per se. However, I'm just over here, Satan, just reading exactly what the book said, which is talking about what the IRS says. So, like, is that an idea? Absolutely.
It's probably an idea.
This is one of the reasons. Shoot, I'm gonna have to forget who it was, but there was somebody I was talking about. They're like, yeah, when I run my business, I try to do write-offs for everything, and I try to make sure everything is clear as possible. Like, the guy even got a custom little sign for his door to put in the house. So it's like, this room is for my small business. This is small business LLC right here. Business goes on behind this door.
I love it.
And like every time he got audited or the IRS asked questions, he just went and like took pictures of it, took pictures of the room, and was like, "Ah, yes, here it is. Look at it. It is labeled."
Oh man, so that means that I need to name my Lambo, which is very, very much needed for my company. The license plate needs to be LLC. Small company LLC.
It's possible. There's a lot of good stories about there. About like people like finding ways to write things off. This is one of the things I was talking about when it comes to having a professional who actually understands what's going on here can be massively beneficial. I'm going to try to find this guy's YouTube channel. He's a tax consultant on YouTube. He was telling a story about how he actually was able to help a client write off a yacht as a business expense.
Yeah,
because
I like that.
The reason that it worked was because she was a realtor, a high-end realtor in, I want to say like somewhere around Miami. And one of the things that she did as part of the process was it would actually take prospective clients on a boat to show them like oceanfront views of properties, and also as like a little bit of transportation. And because she worked with a tax consultant, and because they were actually able to show that the use of the yacht was exclusively for the business and it was related to specific business expenses. So all they had to do was like keep a captain's log with all the hours and the destination of the journeys, and then also a list of all the guests that came on board, and to just to make sure that it matched up. That was actually able to be written off as a business expense, a full-on like 30-meter yacht.
I love that. That's awesome. I think my favorite example of what is not considered a home office and cannot be written off that she put in there was like, if you have your children's toys in the closet, that is not a home office. Like, yeah, that right there. I bet you that's Will's mom right there.
Yeah, Carlton Dennis. That's the name of the guy. I was trying to find his YouTube channel. He does a lot of good stuff. I like what he talks about. One of the interesting videos, not related to taxes, but he was like, there is a specific number where you should actually transition your LLC into an S corp because you will actually receive different tax benefits as a result. So the guy does good work. Check him out. Additionally. But as always, consult your tax professional. We're just people on the internet. This is not financial, definitely not tax advice. So,
you know, what I can give advice for is if you want to become like wealthy, very, very rich, doing taxes, learn inside and out crypto taxes. You'll be like the #1 go-to guy for probably the biggest demographic of millionaires in the world.
You're not wrong here. There's actually a little bit of a nugget of truth behind what you're saying there, which is that I want to say this was a Alex Hormozy quote, which is that if you want to increase your income, you need to increase the income of the clients that you work with, which is the idea that people that make more money are able to pay you more money. So theoretically, if you do taxes for people that make massive crypto gains, it should be easier to just have that standard commission rate of maybe like a small percentage up to a certain number. That's just naturally going to be higher as a result. So
give me Bitcoin,
or you get paid in Bitcoin.
Yeah, give me Bitcoin. There's only so much in the world, and it's all going to be taken by the big people. I want to feel myself.
You gotta consider if you want to be a chef at Waffle House, or if you want to be a chef at a 5-star Michelin-rated restaurant. You know,
I think
you're gonna make more money.
I think the barrier is decently low when you think about it too. There's such a need for crypto taxes. that all you need to do is just go through. You already have an understanding of how taxes work. So now just go through and place those on specifically what how it works or pertains to crypto. And then there you go. You got a whole nother business to fly in there. And you can way up the price on your consultations and everything or services because of that. You're like the only guy, you know?
Most definitely.
Oh, yeah.
I think it's one of those interesting concepts where it's once you realize that making money is not just a result of having a job, but making money is you are finding a way to provide a service to people for them to pay you for said good or service. That is what is making money. It's one of those things that unlocks your brain from, all right, I need to work in corporate America for 20 years so that I can make $200,000 based on my level of education, my experience, the titles I've had in the past. It's like, no. Or you can make $200,000 by finding a way to provide tax services to people that are willing to pay you that much money for their taxes. So, all right,
It just kind of
go for it.
just kind of sort of double tapping what you said. It just comes down to solving other people's problems, right? Like if you notice there's problems and people have money and they have problems, it's like, ooh, well, I'll take your money if I solve your problem. You know, just that's I'm beating a dead horse here. You're absolutely right.
No, I think we're right on the same thing. If anything, this is a good callback to when we were covering Rich Dad Poor Dad, and Robert Kiyosaki was talking about you just got to find creative ways to create money. That is the entrepreneurial spirit. This is the end of my scheduled topics, but I just wanted to give a last opportunity. Do you guys have any insights or ideas when it comes to business expenses, how to properly utilize this to reduce tax burden? Because in my mind, the idea would be like, try to find a way to have some dedicated office space. It's going to cost you a little bit, or if you could find a way to have a dedicated space inside your house, that makes sense. Business vehicles is another large one. And then as far as maybe having like a dedicated business computer, doesn't have to be anything crazy or fancy. That might also be worthwhile. Just finding ways to have a legitimate business purpose and be able to demonstrate it so that if someone does come knocking on the door with an IRS badge and says, hey, I want to see your tax returns, you can also show them all the supporting documentation, be like, yes, I have the receipts, and this is why my receipts make sense.
Yep.
I
was going to say it'd be convenient if we had basically everyone on the panel. None of us own businesses, if I'm not mistaken, right? Everyone else on the DGen Roundtable, they're out busy right now, like taking care of their businesses and stuff. But they would probably have some good insight. I know that's something we covered a little bit during the small business podcast that we had about a month ago, something like that. But you know, Jay fixes furniture, so probably all of his tools, his truck that he drives around and picks up furniture with. You know, Dace owns a sound system, like a sound and acoustics and mixing and audio company where he goes around and builds sound systems for like churches and stadiums and things like that. So I'm sure like he's got some sort of vehicle that he has and some sort of business account for buying all of his like, you know, 2-inch conduit and all of his like cables and screws and nails for installing everything, and you know, all of his mixing software. All that's probably written off on business account. But yeah, I don't have any crazy ideas. Just basically the same thing that you guys are all talking about. Just starting up a business account, getting that business credit card, getting that business bank account. That's basically step one, like one of the most important steps. I'm sure that my mother will say this when we interview her, and she's told me several times personally, just like the number one thing that causes most easily solvable problems in this realm is like people just don't set up a business account and they commingle money.
Yeah, the way that I've always kind of looked at it, and I still look at things this way because I'm a little bit peanut brain over here, is I don't like a lot of moving parts all over the place. I like to take all the moving parts and funnel them into like the most singular thing possible. It makes it a lot easier, which is why all of my through my budget, everything that is bills related anything that has to do with money that I need to spend, I'm funneling it through the Gemini credit card of mine. And then from there, that's a central point where like all the money that's spent going out of my house is at that one spot. So now all the money that I get that is in my bank account now, which all my money will go into there, now funnels out of there and goes straight into that card, right? And then on top of it, I'm getting a reward of crypto. Yay. So it makes it a lot easier and also streamlines things really, really well. And then the other side of that, Will, is if you think about this, right? Like we may not be on the side of having our own businesses, but we are on the side of being part of a business. So what is it that whenever you have an expense of some kind, what does the company want you to do? You know, they want you to document the receipt or whatever, or send it electronically, or maybe they have like a little basket in the office for receipts and stuff like that. You know, they want to know specifically what you're doing, what you're using, and you know how you're using it. And there's a reason for that. That's just the reverse side of actually owning the business yourself, you know, where you need to know that you need to keep track of that stuff.
Definitely. Real quick, can we highlight some of the comments that Willie's throwing in here? He's talking about how he actually has an idea. He has an idea that he's acting on right now, where he has an LLC to rent part of his house to traveling nurses. So the idea here is that you're using basically your personal property, but you're creating a business entity of it and then using it to create revenue through the rent. And then theoretically, while doing something like this, you could write off depreciation of the asset, aka the house, against your tax liability. And then also very important, the thing he talks about here is the second to last comment says, I used a lawyer to establish the LLC and opened a business account at Chase Bank, separate email, separate debit card. That's fantastic. That's clear delineation between business and personal entities. And that sounds exactly like all the stuff that we saw in here, which is that anytime you're trying to do a write-off or trying to create something, it's got to be regular and exclusively used for business. So theoretically, that business account you set up is explicitly for that LLC. I'm sure there's probably very few transactions going through it, and I bet that makes it look real nice on paper for, this is a very legitimate business expense. Well done, Willie. I like that. I like that a lot.
Yeah, and he's right. He's 100% right there. Got to pay the professionals. When it comes to something like this, like I really don't want to deal with this. You know, I know how to fix cars. I used to do it all the time when I was younger. I really don't want to do it again because it's annoying and it's a big time sink. So I go and I pay a premium on pay a premium on, you know, the professionals.
For sure. Something like this is
Hey Josh, how you doing there?
Josh in here.
Coronel.
This is definitely an area where having professional expertise would make a lot of sense. Let's see. You said you were talking with an accountant to talk about the details, working with a lawyer to maintain the LLC year to year, and also do rental agreements. Yeah, that's fantastic. Looking at something like that, you're having all the right people help you with all the right things. I'm sure having professional help is, it's going to cost a pretty penny, but I bet it works out. Additionally, we got Brother 64 in the chat. What's going on, man? Thanks for catching the stream. We're talking about taxes. I know Brothers runs I would call a very successful Instagram page. Curious to hear if he has any tax tips for running a business or whatever. Will, we have a request for the link to the book. Do you happen to have one? Or are we going to go find one real quick?
Mrs. McGetta, if you could pull up the link that I sent you in Telegram and go ahead and throw that in the chat. I'm afraid I cannot do so because I'm about 70 miles an hour right now on the interstate. But I did give our producer the chat for the audiobook. Are you able to find that?
One thing I'd like to add on with what Willie's saying here in the chat is that when you are looking at separating everything, I tend to see it as like a singular entity, right? So with the same way that I just got done telling you with me, my own personal life, how I like to funnel everything to kind of like a singular spot, right? When it comes to the money, well, I would look at it the same way. There's me, and then I've got my business, right? When I was looking to form my business with pest control, there's more than just pest control I wanted to start up a business with. You know, I got a bunch of ideas of things that I could quite easily start up, you know, and they'd be small little businesses. But the other thing I wanted to do is just have them underneath an umbrella company to maximize protection, right? So if there's ever any kind of trouble of any sort of way, I can literally just delete one aspect of it and not lose the business at all, and then just rebrand and rename, and then it can just continue on. So there's a lot of, and the way that I've always looked at like LLCs and corporations and all that is they're quite literally just a shield. They're a shield for anything that might go wrong, you know? Oh no, I'm going bankrupt on this one company. Okay, I guess we're going out of business. It goes out of business, and then the skeleton stays there. You know, you still have all the same, you know, materials that you had before. You just start up a new a new business, rebrand it, and then just insert those into there, and then bam, you're off to the races again. So
the legal structure that we have for businesses in the US is honestly one of the, I know it does get it gets a bad rep for having like shell corporations and like trying to mask things and hide things. You have these like shells in a shell in a shell. It's that Russian nesting doll of business corporations. But at the end of the day, what it does is like you said, it is that shield. It is protection. And it's honestly, it's the ability to fail and not have your life be ruined. It's the ability to restart and try again and be successful on your next attempt. Or theoretically, you could fail again and again and again, but then eventually you might hit it. It's the idea that like you could operate as the business is an entity. It's no longer you are the entity, it's the business is the entity. This stuff is good for a tax liability, but also for legal liability too, and financial stuff. So it's the idea that like theoretically, if you do get a business loan, that's the business getting the loan. Granted, you are probably going to have to foot some of the collateral for the bill as like personal investment, but it's the ability to take a shot. That's what it is. Like, it's the ability to get a loan on some investment, take your shot. If it fails, it fails. Guess what? Your credit score is going to take a hit for sure, but at the same time, you can do it again.
Yeah, see, here's the thing about that too. If you actually look into what it is that, you know, the richest men on earth own, they don't. Their businesses, companies, and other legal entities all own it for them. The only difference is that there's a clause in there that says they get to use it however they wish and whenever they wish. And that's kind of the long and short of it.
They have access to the facilities and the amenities.
Yeah, exactly. And so, you know, you pull out that Ferrari and you're like, oh yes, there's this very important business that I do with my real estate, and it's for, you know, showing clients. And so now I think I'm going to go to the grocery store, go clubbing with it. You know, that's basically how that works.
Fair enough. Something like that may not be able to be written off as an expense. However, if your business owns it, that means that the business owns it, and theoretically, you could have access to it. So, I will say this. Brother64 asked for the link to the book. One of the things that I don't think we mentioned yet is at the end of the book, there is a bunch of appendices for useful links and services that are shouted out. So specifically, like different people that can help you file your taxes, different business software, different tax software, different ways to file, all this stuff. It's literally at the end of the book, there is the links to the places to help you hit the ground running and get going on everything that we're talking about here and keep things going.
Yeah, I got a funny story with that. I actually ended up listening to the book twice because she got to that part and she was like speaking out all that stuff. I was like, oh, okay, it looks like she's just going through resources. Cool. And then all of a sudden, it just like switched back to chapter 1 and automatically started going. And this was after kind of like just rinky-dinking with it when I had to go talk to a customer and come back. And I was like, oh no, I messed it up. What the hell? So I just listened to it all over again anyways. It ended very suddenly for me. I was like, oh, whoa, okay, I guess it's done.
It's a great book, a great short book. I've listened to it a few times myself.
Well, see, here's the nice thing about your mom's book is that it's one of those things that when you are starting up your own small business, this is something that you like pull out of your pocket and you start reading, and it's a shorter read or, you know, a shorter listen than, you know, one of these like 16-hour long ass books, right? But it's one of those that she does a very good step-by-step sort of deal. And there's times in the book where she's like, hey, you know what? I'll wait right here. You go do that thing that I taught. Yeah. You know, she does that several times.
I did enjoy that as well.
Yeah, yeah, that's another one of those personality things. I'm like, yeah, this has got to be her personality.
Definitely. It is nice that it's the shorter book to help you get off the ground. As someone that has, unfortunately, read a lot of the textbooks for professional reasons, I'm glad to not have to go through a textbook to get some good quality information. This is fantastic. And then also, I think I paid like $3 on Audible for it. So very accessible, very easy. Go pick it up. Go give it a listen. We're not just shilling it because it's Will's mom, but I mean, like, we probably should chill it a little bit more because it's Will's mom. But at the same time, though, I'm very satisfied with my purchase.
Chock-a-block full of value for a low price. You guys, every person that buys this book is stealing value from my mother because it is such a low price. It's fantastic, but I don't think she'd have it any other way.
Yeah. I will say this. You can definitely feel through the narration, the writing, and everything, all the metagame surrounding the book. She's definitely trying to help people and trying to make it as easy as possible to help people. So I really appreciate that, and I think she's doing a real service to people out here. I'm excited to have her on. So speaking of which, Will, any preview for the show on Wednesday? Any topics that you've already talked to our special guest about covering?
Sorry, I had to cough up a hairball there.
Good brother.
I'm actually that's one of the things that I'm going to be speaking about her with, but we're going to cover a lot of stuff, generally just going around small business ownership, and we're going to dive a little bit deeper into the weeds of things that people should consider and questions they should be asking themselves and stuff. So it's going to be essentially like what the book talks about, but a little bit more in depth, and you got to hear it straight from the expert's mouth. So that is the basic general idea of it. And again, that will be on the 27th of December, a week from the Wednesday that just passed at 8:00 p.m. Eastern time. Same as we always stream. Well, pretty much always stream. I don't think we've ever streamed any time other than 8 Eastern.
Same DGen time, same DGen place.
Yes,
Love
sir.
All right,
Yeah,
boys,
that's what we got coming up.
I feel like we've hit everything we need to hit. So let's just go ahead and put a nice little bow on this. Will, where can the people find you?
You guys can find me at linktree/Will Stevenson. That's where all my socials, all the stuff that I put together, all of my work can be found. Whether you want to check out the Rule Zero website that will show you all of the podcasts in a nice, clean format. It's where you can also find the Hex Meetup Template, which I guess I might as well plug now. So first off, if you guys haven't joined our Telegram, go ahead and do so now. bit.ly/degenerate_roundtable. That'll take you straight to our Telegram. You guys just join on up over there, and you got to be a part of the conversation. I think we got 115 members right now, so it's a nice small Telegram. It's really personable. People's questions get answered super duper easy and relatively quick and fast, and it's just a positive place to be. It's not like one of these larger Telegram groups where there's thousands and thousands of people, and people are shilling links, and there's spam going on, and there's bots answering all these questions and all sorts of crap. No, it's a really homey place to be in our Telegram, be a part of the DGen Roundtable community. So again, bit.ly/degenerate_roundtable. And while I'm shilling Bitly links, I've got another Bitly link for you guys that will take you to, if you're a Hexican, or if you're just a crypto person in general and you want to meet up with other Hexicans, what you can do is you can go to bit.ly/hex_meetup_template, and that will take you to an Excel spreadsheet document wherein you can find people and their contact information and their locations, and you guys can reach out to each other. Dox yourself to the level that you're comfortable with. Obviously, don't put your freaking street addresses in there. But what most people do is they'll write down what portion of the country or what state or what city that they're in, and their Twitter handle or their Telegram handle, or some people are ballsy enough to put in their Instagram. And I think I'm the only one who's got my Facebook up in there because I'm an old guy. But yeah, you can meet up with other Hexicans or meet up with other crypto people in general and just have a good time. It's one of the things that I really like to promote people do. Also go to the Pulse Chain conferences, go to the Hex meetups that Matty Allen runs, hang out with other people, go visit other people's YouTube channels like Crypto Sloth Boogie, all those guys. Everyone in our community in the Telegram, a lot of the guests that we have on there, you can find them in our Telegram. So if you want to ask Walrus a question from Liquid Loans, you can find him in our Telegram. If you want to ask Boogie some stuff about TA or guns, you can find him in our Telegram. You know, if you want to talk to Crypto Sloth, he's in there as well from time to time too. There's tons of great people in our Telegram. So join our Telegram. Go hang out with Hexicans. You can find me at linktree/Will Stevenson. That is all I got. I'm just cruising around Texas. So if any of you guys are in Texas, I've got a list of people that I got to meet, and I just finished doing all my work and stuff. So I'm on vacation time. So Rodram, I'm coming for you, buddy. At some point, we're gonna hang out. All right, we're gonna hang out, and then there's another gentleman down around in that area as well that I will not name him on stream because he wishes for his privacy to be kept. But you know, just like I'm gonna meet all you Texan Hexicans and all you Texican crypto boys. So I'm coming around slowly but surely. I don't have to work anymore. So that's what I got going on for me, Mr. Nate. What do you got going on, brother?
Well, on the opposite side of the United States of America, literally exact opposite.
Yeah,
I'm chilling. It's currently raining here in December. No snow yet. I'm very confused.
good old Minnesota.
Yeah, the fact that we have no snow and it's raining this time of year, like we would be having a warm winter if it was in the teens right now, and we're up here in the 40s. I don't know what's going on. This is some weird stuff, but you know, enjoy it while you can, I guess, right? Yeah, no, I got my show every Tuesday night, same time as our normal shows, 7 o'clock at night Central Time, where I talk about interesting things, and I'm a little bit. I got 3 things I want to talk about, but I haven't quite decided on exactly which one I want to talk about yet. So to be determined. I will have go ahead and go over to my channel, The Ascending Man, on YouTube over there. You will find the thumbnail popped up whenever I decide which one specifically. I am extremely deep into AI right now. Q Star has just been confirmed, which is the first and one of the most important steps to artificial general intelligence, which is a lot more than just predictive framing of just regular artificial intelligence. Artificial general intelligence, quite frankly, is what you may call actual consciousness, or at least being consciously understanding of what it is that they're figuring out. Not necessarily, I guess, the spirit, but at least they're consciously thinking. Hey, wow, really? All the way up in Canada too. What is going? I know it's an El Nino year, so it's technically warmer over here, but I can't
see what's going on, Nate. What are you talking about?
Oh,
there's a saying that they also had a really, really mild winter so far.
Yeah, over there in Canada. So, hey, he's in Canada, eh?
Hell yeah.
Alrighty. Anyways, that's what I got going on. How about Mrs. Magetta? What do you got going on, huh? I have no clue what she could be having going on.
Not too much. Just preparing for Christmas over here.
Fantastic. Is there anything you would like to shout out before we head out of here?
Nope. I just want to say thank you to Will's mom for making this book. It was a fantastic short little read there. Super helpful. I'm probably going to actually physically go buy one just to have and like review and highlight and take notes, because once we start getting everything going here with the DGen Roundtable, I kind of expect to be one of the main people doing this type of thing. Or at least, you know, that's kind of what I wanted, I suppose. Might not happen that way, but we'll see. Either way, I'd like to be prepared for that. So,
hell yeah.
Fantastic. All right. Well, in case everyone thought that we would be taking the holidays off, this Sunday, joke's on you, we're still streaming. We're doing a Christmas Eve special. We're going to have special guests and community members, so there's a chance for you guys to hop on stream with us. Very similar to our Thanksgiving special. I had a lot of fun with that one. That was it was a community Whiskey Wednesday that went off the rails right before Thanksgiving, so I had a blast with it. I know this is going to be a fun show right before the holidays, so looking forward to that. And then, as always, the 27th, we have the actual author of the book, Kristine Stevenson, coming on. This is going to be another one of our forays into small business ownership. I really like that little niche of the channel that we've been launching. Really excited about it. It's something that I've been throwing around myself, the idea of owning a small business and starting and operating one. So looking forward to it. That's going to be a good stream. And then again, yeah, every Sunday, we're going to be keeping it going. So we will see you guys next time. Thank you very much for spending time with us. Yes.
I did want to add, On the stream where we're gonna have Will's mom, I might be on that one. Not positive yet, but I'm gonna try.
Ooh.
That's
Okie dokie.
excellent. Getting a little more FaceTime. Fantastic. Alrighty. The other, I guess, other thing I forgot to mention, shoot, I was even going through my own script too fast, which is we do need recommendations for the next book clubs coming up. Right now, on my short list, I have The Millionaire Next Door. I like this book a lot because it talks about what do millionaires actually look like? What are their spending habits? And then my favorite section is where it actually talks about the psychology of how you acquire money affects how you are going to spend it and the thinking that goes behind it. So when it comes to capital gains from cryptocurrency, this is something that might help you unlock and hack your brain a little bit and not fall into some common traps. So unless we get any recommendations from the community, this is what we're planning on for 2 Fridays from now. Geez, we are already in January 5th, I want to say. Yeah. We may have to double check on that one because there is a large event going on a day or two after that we want to be very prepared for. So as of now, Millionaire Next Door is the book on the docket. If you have a recommendation, you want to see something happen sooner, hit me up, put it in the Telegram, put it in the comments, anything. Until we meet you guys next time, though, thank you again for spending time with us. We appreciate that you spend your time with us. Shout out to everybody in the chat. We got Brother64, Willie, Josh even showed up here. Bungalows for Bachelors. Love seeing you guys out here. Thanks again for coming. We will catch you guys next time. Adios.
Yeah.